Hey everyone, welcome back to the Hotep Jesus YouTube channel. This is the Love and Marriage podcast. I am Wendy O. I'm the co-host of the show and, of course, our fabulous host, Hotep Jesus. How are you doing tonight?
I'm great. How are you, partner?
I'm good. I'm just very excited to talk to you about so many different things. There's a lot that's been going on this past week, a lot, and I want to share with everyone. I want to talk to you about it. So first and foremost, how has your week been?
Marvelous. Like I told you, I just got finished with a debate revolving Black Lives Matter. Very, very great debate with a brother that took the defensive for Black Lives Matter, and I took the against. And turned out to be we had a lot more common than we expected, and he's not as Black Lives Matter-ish as I had originally thought. But hell of a great conversation. How's your week?
It's good. I woke up feeling a little bit weird this morning. You know, when you just get weird vibes and you're just like, you're just everything's kind of off.
Yeah.
It's been one of those days. I'm not sure why. I think I'm in a transition period, but I do have some good news, some exciting news. Are you familiar with John McAfee?
No.
So he has, you know, that famous virus protection, McAfee or Mac,
Oh, McAfee. Oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
McAfee.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to be hosting an AMA with him on Friday morning.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah,
I'm excited.
if you would have said McAfee like that, I
McAfee.
would. Yeah.
I honestly don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's dope. His wife is dope. So he's going to come on. I'm going to do an AMA about his decentralized crypto exchange that the community is pissed off about because they're calling him a scammer and whatnot, which personally, if people that know me and know how I run my business, I take particular opportunities because they're going to help me grow. And so people don't seem to kind of understand the strategy with that because he actually tweeted that out to his million followers on Twitter. So I was like, so people can stay
That's
mad all
dope.
they want. Thanks.
That's dope. Yeah, that's a good look, man. Fuck crypto Twitter, man. What the fuck they talking about? It's a bunch of incels who masturbate too much and don't have a girlfriend. So they have a lot of that's estrogen buildup.
Funny story about that. Remember one of the shows that we had did? I was talking to you about this dude that he had posted pictures of his daughter's toy and was saying weird stuff about his daughter's toy.
Okay.
I told you, like, who is this? I'm gonna block him. So I think he listened to your episode because he blocked me. I was like,
They creep on our episodes. They creep on the channel. They
they
know they
do,
gotta listen in. They know what the good content is.
they
And
do.
then and they know we talking about them. The thing is, they got to watch because they got to be ready to go on defensive because they
Mm-hmm.
know I'm on the offensive. I don't play like white conservatives do and play on the defensive. I'm always on the offensive. I'm always attacking. You know what I mean? And very rarely will you find me playing defensive. If you're playing defensive, it's probably because you're losing or your opponent has an advantage over you. And crypto Twitter has no advantage over me.
No, they don't. It's just pretty interesting. And at the end of the day, I support all children, all the babies, and I will go hard for any child ever. And if I see something weird, I'm going to call it out because it's just, people, and in a way, social media has contributed to a lot of turmoil and a lot of like drama between everybody right now. But at the end of the day, it is exposing people for being complete pieces of shit.
Yeah, it is.
So
Real talk.
that's on that. So I guess the first thing I wanted to bring up. So me and my husband, we had took the baby, went to the beach, and we took the baby to go get dinner. And there's these three dudes that were sitting behind us. It was a pretty nice restaurant. My daughter goes to my husband really loud. She goes, "Dad, why are those boys sitting there by themselves? Where are their girlfriends?" Like to the point where they could hear her. And I was just like mortified. I was like,
What? Kids say the darndest things. I tell you that.
they do, they do, they do. So let me see. Let me see what's first on the list. Do you have anything else you want to add before I get started with some stuff?
Let's get into it. Let's get into it.
All right. So my first is actually a surprise. It's a surprise topic I wanted to discuss with you about. So I'm thinking about starting a new business venture.
Oh, let's talk about it. I like that. I like that.
So this business venture, I think you might, I kind of want to get your feedback on it because I think you're going to, and it kind of relates to the show. So I'm thinking about starting a dating service that brings people in tech together, that helps these dudes in tech and in crypto find partners.
Nerd love.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
I think it'll be good. So the way I wanted to kind of structure it at first was I wanted to start, just a basic website and have like consulting sessions to where people can go on and they can pick to talk to an advisor or a different person and get some relationship advice, pay like 100, 200 bucks an hour or however long, and then start that way. And then eventually, once when I'm able to get it funded, make it to where people can, like have it to be like a Bumble or like a Tinder or something like that. But it has to be people that are interested in either meeting somebody in tech or vice versa.
So I love that idea. I think there's a step before that that is much cheaper and is
Okay.
going to give you a higher impact. All you need is a simple landing page and a form, and you'll say, you know, coming soon, right? Or be here in 3 months or whatever it may be. Nerd matchmaking. Create a form, put it up there, add these people to a wait list.
Okay.
Because the problem with social networks is you launch them and it's like, they want to be matched up and there's nobody to match up with. But
Okay.
if you can get the people interested first to fill out the form and then you launch this website, you can immediately start matching people.
Okay.
And I
I
think
can
that's a
get
real
behind
cheap
that.
way. It's a real cheap way you can do it with, Typeform, Google Forms, a MailChimp form or something like that. But that's how I would start that off with. Also, you'll see, who and how many people want this product. Because people might say, what, I don't even want to date, right? And you don't have a product. But, I believe that people should have a wait list of, for example, let's say you have a wait list of 1,000 people. Do you know what you can do with that?
A lot. A lot. That's money right there.
I'm going to show you what you can do. You can actually create a lookalike audience on Facebook with that information.
Really?
Oh yeah, you take that 1,000 file CSV and you upload it to Facebook, and Facebook will create a lookalike audience based upon those people, and you'll let Facebook do the work for you. The hardest
Ooh.
part is getting the first 1,000 people, and Facebook's going to get you high quality leads because, well, they know everybody's business.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I like that. See, this is why I wanted to talk to you about that. And the fact that you just gave me good feedback, I think I'm going to pursue it.
Awesome, yeah, you owe me 5% of the company already.
That's fine. Let's do it. Let's do it. I honestly do not mind paying people, especially for their input. What a lot of people do not realize, especially in business, that just by talking to somebody, just a simple conversation can lead to great things and networking. People do not understand how important networking is.
My agent Brody McFarland said, "Don't give away too much." I can't say nothing else.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. But I wanted to talk about it on the show because I think that it is a problem in tech because we have a lot of people that don't have social skills. And I feel like with all this crazy like limbo that the current economy is and society is in general, that a lot of people are going to, especially a lot of kids that are growing up, they're going to be without social skills because like my daughter's daycare, for example, I got an email. They're like, okay, well, if you want to put her in daycare, we're only taking 10 people because they're cutting the classes in half due to COVID. So it's like, what is going to happen to these other 10 kids? Are they going to stay at home? How does that work? So our social skills going to end up being diminished, and what's going to happen to society?
Mm, mm, mm. Well, kids already don't have them social skills. And yes, this is going to make it a lot worse. I think that's what these Orwellian terms are about, like social distancing, uh, together alone, right? All these Orwellian terms. It's definitely where we're headed. And these remote school lessons don't bode well for the future of our country and our children. Absolutely, I agree.
So I guess that leads us into our first topic. This was actually be one of the latter topics, but since we're talking about social distancing and all this weird stuff that's happening. So apparently in the UK, there was an article that came out. I sent it to you, but hairstylists are starting to talk to their clients and advising females, not males, females to cut their hair due to COVID.
They want to cut their hair due to COVID.
To help so it doesn't, so the disease or the virus, whatever the fuck, does not spread. They're advising women to cut their hair. They're not
Mm,
advising men to cut their hair to get rid of the man bun. They're not advising men to cut their beards because if
mm.
anything, you think, okay, well, if you got me, the way my mind works, if you have a beard, you got facial hair, wouldn't that be more dangerous than long hair because that's right by your mouth?
Valid point.
So I don't know. I think it's just when I read that, I was like,
What
what?
what what are you fearing with this thing? What is your worry? What is the danger?
Well, I feel like it's taking femininity away from women. I have long hair, and I have long hair because it makes me feel beautiful. It makes me feel confident. It makes me feel like a woman. If I cut my hair short, I'm not saying my hair is my best asset, but I feel like, and don't get me wrong, there's bald women that are beautiful. There's women with short hair that are beautiful. But me personally, I like my long hair. I like my daughter to
Mm,
have long hair. When I was growing up, my dad always
mm.
told my mom, "I don't want you to cut the girl's hair. I want you to keep the girl's hair long." Oh, you're putting your hair in the front.
You saw that, right?
So that with me, it's because if you cut the hair off, because they did that with people in the Holocaust, is they cut their hair off and everybody was like androgynous looking. It just to me, it's just I'm not into it. I don't like it. If a woman wants to cut her hair on her own self, because there are some women that look good with short hair, and that's on them. But me personally, I don't want somebody telling me cut your hair because of COVID. I feel like it's bullshit.
I think that you present a valid worry. I think you present a valid concern. I do think that there is some sort of agenda to create gray areas in regards to gender. Um, Unfortunately, I cannot get into the intricacies and the nuances of this conversation because I'd like to keep my YouTube channel, and I know that the powers that be love to fondle each other of the same sex. But I think it's a valid concern. I think you're right. I think there is some sort of impression that long hair is more feminine, especially in white culture. Um, as it exists in the 21st and 20th century of the Western world, because obviously it didn't always exist like that. When you go back further in history,
Right.
it was, I believe, the opposite, right? But we always have to think about the time that we're in. And the time that we're in, long hair equals feminine. And so, yeah, are women actually doing this?
I don't know if they're actually doing it. I think right now it's just like it's getting pushed on. It's an agenda that's
Mm,
being pushed on, and I'm not with it. And it's not, I don't, it's not just white women. I know a lot of Latino women that they have long hair.
yeah.
I know a lot of like Middle Eastern women, they have long hair. I know a lot of Armenian women that have long hair. It's just, you know, it's a female thing for some females.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, Let me read these super chats real quick. Chris Jones, 6333, must be a numerologist.
Ooh.
He said, Hotep is such a bright light in an increasingly dark world. Not sure about this lady, but Hotep has really raised my vibrations in this best apocalypse ever. God bless you, Hotep. Keep going. Chris Jones, first of all, thank you. And a huge fuck you. Please don't diss my guest. Please do not diss Wendy O. Wendy O is a fabulous woman, but I do appreciate your support. I appreciate your monetary donation, such a large, generous donation. In fact, I do appreciate that. But respect the lady. Y'all not gonna come on my channel and diss Wendy. Yo, not on my channel. Josh Randall, $20 super chat. Thank you. He said, Hotep, liking your tweets has cost me 100 plus followers this week. Feels real good. I owe you one, JR. Thank you, JR. Appreciate you. Yeah, I think I'm probably down about 100 followers this week. It doesn't include the amount of people I blocked. But do me a favor, tag me, and we'll get you 500 more. I'll shout you out, tell some people to follow you, and we'll replace those 100 people that we never even needed. But yeah, so yeah, they want to. Here's how I feel about the cutting of the hair. I say, let them do it. Let them cut their hair. That way we can identify the NPCs that exist in this world. They'll present themselves and show themselves as being the idiots and morons that they really are.
I'm with that. I'm with that. And thank you for that. So I guess that he's a new watcher on your or new subscriber on your
I,
show.
I think he's no.
All right. Well,
Wait. He said I didn't diss her. I just said I didn't know about her. Keep. Oh, well then I apologize. Hotep Jesus was an asshole for no reason. Damn. I feel like now I feel stupid. Chris Jones, I owe you a Twitter shout out. I am so sorry. I definitely got defensive. I'm defensive over Wendy O. If so many people attack her in crypto Twitter, and somebody had said something last week in the chat that I thought you were attacking her because you said not sure about this lady. So, but you clarified, you said I didn't diss her. I just said I didn't know about her. Okay, yeah. Well, this is Wendy O. She's a crypto guru, and she has her own channel on YouTube. The link is in the description box. Go ahead and subscribe to her channel. And once again, I apologize for being the attack dog that Hotep Jesus can be sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's a, it's a, it's a thing. But during the show, you guys will get, if this is your first time watching, you'll get to know me because we're actually going to be touching on a very sensitive topic to me. Very, very, very sensitive because I feel very strongly about it. Do you want to get into that topic? You want to touch on some of the lighter stuff?
Let's go light first.
Okay, because this
I'm
one
not,
is
I'm
going
not
to,
ready. I gotta breathe because I just went off on Mr. Jones. I'm an asshole. I really got to do something by myself. Let's go light so I can clear this up first.
funny thing about that is my father-in-law tells my husband that he was born an asshole every time he sees him.
Yeah, I was too.
It's
I'm
a, it's
definitely, I'm
it's
definitely
alpha.
an asshole.
It's
Is
alpha.
that what it is?
It's the alpha.
Yeah. People are like, why are you like this on Twitter? Yeah, I'm an asshole. Somebody was like, you're an asshole. And I'm like, your point? Like, I already know that.
I think it's entertaining. I'm like literally I see all the blocks and I'm dying. I'm literally dying on Twitter just watching it because I'm like these people it's like I feel like they are doing it for like some sort of attention because they know that you're going to tell them to shut the f up. Like it's funny. It's entertaining.
I think some of them do it because they, it's like this masochist type thing, right? And they get off. Yeah, they get off from getting abused by me.
I love it. So let's touch about the lighter stuff. So I kind of
Yeah,
let me see.
let's go one light topic, and then you know what? Fuck that. Let's go to the heavy stuff. It seems like it's right on the top of your head. Let's just hop into it. Let's do it now. Let's
Yeah,
go.
so I want to talk about it because it's affecting every community. It's not just the Black community. It's not just the minorities. It's not just the POCs. It is every community, and I feel like it's detrimental to society as a whole. So, this is what I wrote. I says this topic is political, but we need to speak on it. What warrants a suspended driver's license? It was said that one of the reasons Rashid Brooks' unjust death occurred was because he was stopped for having a suspended driver's license, which escalated. And you can actually get your driver's license suspended for having back child support. So first and foremost, rest in peace to Rashid Brooks. What I watched what happened.
Ray Shard.
Rashard, thank you for correcting me. Rashard, rest in peace to him and his family. I know he was a father, he had kids, and that absolutely destroys me like no other because I can relate to growing up without a father. But the part that I really want to discuss on this is the suspended driver's license because, like I said, you can have your driver's license suspended if you miss a child support payment and the wife decides to take you to court. You can have your driver's license suspended for not paying a ticket, for a DUI, for some petty stuff.
Yeah.
And in my head, you need is okay in Los Angeles. We don't have public transportation. Well, we have buses and stuff and trains, but it's not like it is back east. It's not like it is in New York. It's not like it is in San Francisco. You need to have a car to get to work. And a lot of people have to commute because all the higher paying jobs are in the city of Los Angeles. So when you take somebody's driver's license away, majority of the time they're not going to be able to work or to pay their bills, provide for their family. So what it does is it essentially keeps people down. It keeps them poor because they're not able to go get to continue working at those higher paying jobs. So got to talk about this. Like,
What's the angle that you'd like me to attack this on? Because I'm looking at this Ray Shard situation 1,000 different ways.
okay. So I guess the first part that bothers me is I don't know all the details, but the important thing about this case and this unjust murder was that he had supposedly had the suspended driver's license. And if I'm saying if any of the information I'm giving, please correct me, but supposedly he had the suspended driver's license, so they pulled him over and then all this shit ended up escalating, which
Mm.
not cool. None of it was cool. But why does the system feel the need? Why do they go for the driver's license? Why can't they come up with other solutions to keep people? Because the people that you're suspending the driver's license for, it's generally the poor people. It's generally the
Yeah.
people that have been busted for petty crimes, that have been to county, that have been in the holding tanks, been in the drunk tanks, that type of thing. So why are they continually going after people? Like, why are they suspending the driver's license? And they're suspending it for back child support too. And I have like after we discuss this a little bit, I have a story that I want to share.
So I am the notorious Mr. Suspended Driver's License.
Okay.
In fact, if you look at my driving record, I technically shouldn't even have a driver's license, right? That's yeah. I mean, I think you're allowed like 14 points in New Jersey. I think I have 21, right? Um, so let me tell you my story, or one story. So I'm driving, I get pulled over, and the cop goes, your driver's license is suspended. And I said, I didn't have any knowledge of that. So this cop actually happens to be a nice cop, and he lets me go. When I find out 2 days later, I get a letter in the mail that says, "Hey, your driver's license is suspended." So how is it that I'm at risk of being arrested, at risk of incurring fees, of being towed and stranded on the side of a highway, so on and so forth, um, without fair notice, right? So now I go to court and I show the prosecutor and I say, "Hey, look, here's the date of the ticket that I got from the officer for driving without a suspended because he did ticket me. And here's the date that I was notified. Do you notice that I was notified after this ticket? So technically, I can't be found guilty because I had no knowledge of it." You know
Mhm.
what this prosecutor said to me? To paraphrase, he said, "I don't give a fuck." Now, it wasn't knocked down. I didn't have money for an attorney. I had to eat that. And then I ended up doing community service because this was, I think, my third offense driving without a suspended within a certain period of time. So now I'm doing community service. So now I'm doing community service, and one day I'm doing community service at the jail, and they do roll call every day. They take your attendance to make sure everybody shows up.
Mhm.
I heard Mr. Sharp, and usually when they call your name, that means something bad. I said, "Yeah, come with us." They take me and they lock me up in the holding cell. They pull my record and they said, "Looks like you got a warrant down in Newark." I said, "Nah, that was R ward, release on own recognizance." And they made me sit in that jail. One cop was taunting me, like, "Yeah, you're going to be here for the weekend." White, racist type guy,
Mhm.
buzz cut. You can tell he's like Nazi. And I had another cop who was like, I think more POC ish. He wasn't black. And he was just like, "Look, I'm going to call down and find out. Don't worry about this." They call down, find out it was our ward. They have to release me. The point I'm trying to make is it's real easy to get locked up
Yes.
in the blue state of New Jersey for really not doing anything criminal, right? Now,
Mhm.
I can understand if you do something criminal and they suspend your license, but they suspend your license for things that are not criminal in nature at all. And I have nothing, I repeat, I have nothing on my record that's criminal. Now, when we talk about Ray Sharp Brooks, his record got a couple of felonies on it. You got a couple of criminal offenses on it. This dude wasn't clean at all. But the last offense was over 6 years ago, which means that either he been cleaning himself up or the cops just ain't caught him doing nothing in the past 6 years. One of those was child abuse. Another one of them was domestic abuse. Now, I'm not here to defend him and say he didn't do those things. What I'm here to say is we do not know the details of each of those cases. Because today, if you spank your child for doing something wrong, technically somebody can call the cops and you can be arrested for child abuse.
Mhm.
Spanking is not allowed. Diapers will come and come get your ass. So what I'm saying is I don't know if he is a child abuser or if he's a child abuser based upon state regulations. I don't know if he's a criminal or a criminal based upon these communist laws. Now, if we were to open his case and we sat through with and went through his file to check out the nuances of the case, we can say, "Oh, he's a criminal," so on and so forth. But what I do know is he was drunk as a motherfucking skunk. He blew a 108. Now, I'm not an expert on the alcoholic chart or anything, but a 108 is like fucked up. Like you are trashed,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
I think it's 7 drinks or more or something like that within the past few hours. And you can kind of tell by how he was during this traffic stop, which says to me, you can't treat this individual like you would somebody who's sober. And that's the last thing I'm going to say. Go ahead and tell your story.
So I am not going to say who this person is to me. I would like to keep that private, but I know somebody who was who had some trouble with the law for a while. Did some stuff. People make some dumbass decisions, especially when addiction is involved. But that doesn't mean just because somebody is addicted does to a substance does not mean that they are a bad parent. So this person was, had gotten in trouble. Things had happened. Whatever. Had to pay child support, had an agreement with the mom of the kid, and the mom of the kid said, "Yeah, that's fine. You just pay me lump sums of money. You pay me whatever you can, and I won't do whatever." Well, the mom ended up going to the state and says he's not paying me. So he ended up getting all this back, all these, I guess, not strikes, but where all this back child support was adding up because he was paying her under the table, like she said, but then she wanted to go to the state and get this extra money. She was double dipping. Some women do that, which is not cool. So one day, after he had gotten his life together, he gets something in the mail that says his license is suspended. He can't go to work. What he did for work required him to drive because in this beautiful state of California, like I said, you drive everywhere. We have cars, we have to drive everywhere. So his license was technically suspended and he had to go down to the court and fight and fight and fight. And thank goodness there was somebody, it was crazy. There was an office there that it was an attorney. I think she did like family law, but she actually stood up for the men that were facing this type of stuff that happened with the back child support, men that had been incarcerated, men that had substance abuse issues, stuff like that. They were trying to get their record clear. And the purpose why these men wanted to get their record clear was so that they can get a job and work and pay their child support and do what they were supposed to do. So then you have cases like that come into play that these men, they're getting, I'm sure there are some women, so I don't want to exclude them, but you have these people that get their license suspended because they are not paying their child support or something happened because the system's crazy, the system's backed up. And that part frustrates me because I know a lot of people that are involved with Alcoholics Anonymous that are addicts, people that have, in return, changed their life around the city that I grew up in. It's very, very famous for like AA, very, very famous. And there's a lot of people who are trying to get their life together, but I feel like that suspended license is just keeping them down. And the reason why it's a special topic to me is somebody that I had cared about at one time. And I've been down, very, very down in life to where I didn't know where I was going to eat. I didn't have anywhere to live. I didn't have things like just basic type of stuff. And when you're feeling like that, it's very hard to stay positive and to stay off of doing whatever it is you're doing and do the right thing. So the fact that they're out here with these suspending people's driver's license, like there's nothing wrong with it. And it's hard for me to really understand because how are they helping people to further to get out of the system and to get out off the streets?
So I think we have to look at where you are, right? Because if you suspend my license in New York, it's really not going to affect me, right? I can get from 56th Street, Madison Ave to downtown Wall Street in less than 10 minutes, right? And that's over 60 blocks, 70 blocks, 70 city blocks, right? It's really far. If you were to, for example, if you were to drive from 56th Street down to Wall Street, it would definitely take you about a half hour or more with traffic. You could probably hit the west side of East Side Highway and go down. But actually, you would get there in 5 minutes by the train. I'm sorry. I did it. The reason why I'm saying this is because I went from 56th Street to downtown and back in 15 minutes. My bad. I got on the train, went downtown and back in 15 minutes. It would take you at least 15 minutes by car to get there, depending on traffic, you'd have to hit the west side or east side highway and take it all the way down, depending on which side of New York you're trying to go to. Now, if you did that, if you took somebody's license in New Jersey, oh, you're screwed, because public transportation in New Jersey doesn't exist like it does in New York City. You know, in New York City, they got subway coming every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, and they're everywhere. But in New Jersey, it's like you need a car to get to the train station. You need a car, depending on where you are, to get to the bus station. Otherwise, you're going to walk a mile to get to a bus station. Depending on where you live, you might walk more than that. Florida, same thing. You're going to need a car. Cali, same thing. You're going to need a car. So it's definitely different in some of these areas, and I think it's very crippling, because when you take away somebody's driver's license, you take away their ability to get to work, you take away their ability to feed their family, and now their wife is banging another dude because he broke.
That's true. So for me, when I worked in West Hollywood, that's where I worked when I worked in healthcare. To For me to get to work, it would take me 2 hours in the morning to get to work, and this was about 20 miles. 20 miles to get to work. It took me 2 hours. I looked into taking the train to taking public transportation. It would have taken me, I think, 2 to 3 trains and like 3 buses, and I still would have had to drive into wherever. By the time I got off of work, it's just not safe to be walking at night, that late at night. So, and I actually, the bus ride or the public transportation would have been, I think, 3 hours. It would have taken me longer to get there to work.
Mm.
So it infuriates me that the system, because let's face it, if a rich person gets their driver's license suspended or whatever, they can hire an attorney. They can afford that to get whatever charge it is dropped, because that's what happens. And this is regardless of race. I want to keep race out of it, because there's people in California, there's people of all different races and ethnicities, whatever, that have money, because we're very diverse in California, very, very, very diverse. But when you're taking somebody's driver's license away, like a poor person's driver's license away, and you're incarcerating them, then they're just going to end up staying on the streets. And that's why I feel like California, the incarceration is just absolutely out of control, because it's the same guys going in and out, in and out, in and out, because it's over some dumb shit. It's like, yes, there is the argument that sometimes you're not caught for everything you're doing, which I get that. I understand that. But at the same time, too, it's like, why are you booking people for some petty stuff? Like, if you're gonna, regarding child support, taking somebody's license away, they're not going to be able to pay the child support. So why don't you do something else? Why don't you, like, they have the mandatory wage garnishments, you do that. And if that doesn't work, have them do community service on Saturday and Sunday, and then have to where they're making minimum wage or whatever it is, and that goes to the baby mama or whatever. But why take the driver's license? That's like the one thing people need to do the right thing, or to at least get out of the system.
This is the police state that Alex Jones talks about. This is the communist, socialist oppression that Hotep Jesus talks about. And the state does not exist for the people. It exists to take from the people. The state is a parasite that lives off of the people. And without people to oppress, the state cannot exist.
So yeah, that was my heavy topic, because I want people to get off of the streets. I want them to do well for themselves. And I feel like it's not impossible, because there's many people that have cleaned their lives up, that get it situated. I know many people that have, but at the same time too, I know more people that have died on the streets, or that have been incarcerated and stay incarcerated because of all this little petty stuff that you have to do X, Y, and Z to get your license back, and to pretty much survive and get a job. And there are some jobs that won't hire you if you don't have your driver's license.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, I think we talked about it last time, about child support. It's very, very similar to child support. Because, when you have things like, suspended driver's license, people just think, oh, you're just, this derelict, right?
It's not,
And,
yeah, it's not the case.
and it's not the case. Sometimes it's just like, you ain't pay a parking ticket, you
Yeah,
know?
that's something really, really simple. They have to come up with a better way. They really, really do, because I feel like that's one of the biggest problems. Because let's say you're going like 10 miles over the speed limit. A cop is going to see that, they're going to stop you, because they got to meet their quota or whatever it is. And if you have some priors, or they're feeling a certain type of way, there can be some things that get escalated. over a suspended license or a parking ticket or something really just petty that's
Oh yeah.
non-criminal.
Oh, you get your ass whooped like I did when I was drunk. I told I got it was down in Seaside Heights, New Jersey. Now, if you black and you in Seaside Heights, you shit. If you white and you in Seaside Heights, you better obey the law. You better walk a fine line because they walk the beat and they looking for people causing any type of trouble. Not to say that there's not plenty of trouble to find because everybody's getting smashed on the beach, right? Everybody's getting trashed on the beach. Um, but yeah, I got my ass whooped. I told the cop after I got arrested and he took me down to the precinct. I told him I was going to screw his wife and he whooped my ass.
Well, if you take the uniform away, and let's say you walked up to a random dude and you tell a random dude that, how do you think they would react?
Let's wait. Say that again. Let's tell him what.
Let's say you take the uniform off. It's just a regular person. If you walk up to any man in general, any
Yeah.
man, and you say, "I'm going to F your wife."
Oh yeah, he probably gonna want to whoop your ass.
Yeah, exactly. I remember
Oh, yeah.
me and my friend. We were on the Sunset Strip, and my friend, he was dressed like he was a rocker. He's a musician, so he was dressed a certain type of way. He was with me and my girl. She had big fake boobs, so people were and wanted to be in her business. And this guy that was drunk came up and was like trying to argue with my friend, and my friend just started. He was drunk, and he just started popping off, saying all kinds of stuff like that. And then me and my girlfriend, we had to kind of fight the guy off, get him off of my friend, which was funny.
That's trash. That's trash. That's so trash.
Well,
Men can be so stupid.
I was young. I think I was 19 or something, or 18.
Mm, mm.
You do dumb stuff when you're young, but I'm
Wow.
not. I don't belong to the streets anymore.
I don't belong to the streets no more. She belongs to the streets.
We should. You know what? I was going to bring it up. We should start a new game to where this person belongs to the streets or not. We can tell a story or find like some sort of article and be like, do they belong to the streets or not?
We should do that. I like that. I like that. We should definitely do that. That sounds like
For,
fun.
for next episode, I'll come up with like maybe 2 or 3 celebrity stories, and we
All
can decide if they belong to the streets or not.
right.
Because it's just too much. So next topic I want to talk about. We've touched on interracial marriage before because it's a pretty important topic. But now with all this racial tension going on in the
Mm,
world, how do you define interracial marriage? Because way back when interracial marriage was when a white person would marry a person of color. So they can be Native American, they could be Mexican, they could be black, they can be Indian, they can be anybody that was not white. But now that definition has changed a bit. So how do you
mm,
define interracial marriage?
mm, mm. It's miscegenation. It's the mixture of white and black people, right?
Is it just white and black, or it could be white and Hispanic?
White and Hispanics the same thing.
Okay. So just white. So it is any race that is mixed with black.
No.
Okay.
I think you can have. So you would have to define the races, right? You would have to say Caucasian, Asian, um, Asiatic, which would be the black man, um, and then the Arab, right? Whatever we call the Arab. So I think there's like maybe 4 or 5 original races,
Okay.
and I see wholly Spanish people as being just the conquerors of Spain, right? So the Hispanic nation is wholly the conquerors of Spain, which is why they speak Spanish, right? And their ability to tan is because the people that were originally on the South American continent were dark skinned so-called black people. And you can go look at the writings of Columbus or the writings of De las Casas, Bartolomé de las Casas, who was a slave owner. And he'll tell you about that. He'll describe the people to you that they saw here. So if there's a mixture of any of those 4 original races, I think we can call that miscegenation or interracial.
Okay. So if I was to, let's say me and my husband, we split and I was to go marry an Asian man,
Yeah.
then it would be
That's-
considered interracial marriage.
yes.
Okay. Because out here in Southern California, if a white girl marries a Mexican man, then that would we consider it out here to be interracial.
Well, Mexican is different
Okay.
a little bit. So Mexican is the Mexitos, and the Mexitos are originally like a black people, and you'll notice that there's a difference between Mexican people and like Argentinians,
Oh
right?
yeah, for sure. For sure.
There's a difference between um, light skinned Brazilians and the black population that deals with racism in that large country. In fact, the second largest population of black people is in Brazil. But there's a vast difference between an Argentinian, which practices racial cleansing, right? In Argentina, I think the population is like 90% white or better, right? But the Mexicans got a little bit more Negro blood in them than some of the rest of the population. So it could be misconstrued as interracial. Um, and there's some cultural differences too. There's cultural difference between an American white and a Mexican. I mean, it's a difference between arroz con pollo and chicken and beans.
Don't you start with my chicken and beans. That's a deal breaker, all right? Don't you start with the chicken and beans. I'm changing the show's name to the Chicken and Beans podcast, and y'all could go F yourselves, okay?
You're never going to live that down.
And for the brand new people that are watching, Hotep and I were talking about, because I can cook. I'm a white girl, but I'm Sicilian. I'm a super Jew and I'm Sicilian. So I can cook. I cook my man food sometimes. And I know that MFer is watching this show saying she didn't cook me nothing this week. And I cooked him steak so he can calm down. It was delicious. I cook. And my Sicilian mom, I'm going to send her this clip and she's so funny. She's so funny. No, but so we were joking and I was talking about, because my husband is Mexican. He's Mexican, Native American, and like white from like people from like Oklahoma or something like that. I don't even know. But we were talking about how I make the beans, and Hotep was like,
chicken and beans. She said, I said, we were talking about cooking, and I was like, well, what do you cook? And she was like, something like chicken and beans.
They roll it up in a tortilla. So there's that.
You can't have a burrito with just chicken and beans. You need some rice, you need some onions and peppers, you need some salsa, you need some guacamole. It can't just be chicken and beans. That's a dry ass burrito.
You know what? My poor husband, he has stomach problems, so I got to be careful how much spice I put in it. But so an interesting story about him, his side of the family, is his grandma. She was like the whitest woman ever, came from like the Midwest. And back in the 50s, she married a Mexican man, a man that came from Mexico. And this was like way back when, and he was like dark. And that's where my husband gets his dark skin from. I think from that side. Well, actually from both sides. He's got such like a bizarre mix. But that back then, that was like very interracial. But nowadays, like, because he and I were not interracial, but I mean, I'm technically a white girl that's married to a darker skinned man. Like, when people see him and our daughter, like out in public, he's significantly darker than her, like significantly darker. Like, people will mistake him for being like Indian sometimes. So
Indian, like Indian red dot or feather?
Red dot.
Oh wow.
He's not like dark, but he's darker. Like, his son from a previous marriage, he has two boys. One is like darker skin like him, and the other is like white like my daughter, like transparent white.
Oh, okay. So what's the point of this conversation?
The point of this conversation is because we needed to kind of define what interracial marriage is, because I'm on TikTok and I'm seeing these people. They're like, I'm in interracial marriage and I'm in interracial marriage, and and people are fighting with them. They're like, no, you're not in interracial marriage. And then we got other people that are saying, well, I'm mixed. And they're like, no, you're not mixed because you're not mixed black. So I wanted to clear that up.
Yeah, usually when people say interracial, it usually is implied that they're talking about white and black.
Thank you. That's the point of the conversation.
Yeah, usually that's what's implied, right? But if you were to go based upon the definition, we were to, deal with semantics and be quite pedantic, then yeah, it doesn't exactly mean that. The thing is, as soon as you say race, it's white and black, right? We don't even think about Chinese people. We don't think about Indian people. And that is the big hoax. That is the big psyop. That is the problem with America. Everybody else is allowed to mind their business, go about their business, and do their own thing. And nobody really says much about them. But as soon as a white person smacks a black person, or a black person smacks a white person, or a white person smashes a black person, or a black person got a pog, then things get weird. But if you see a black man with an Asian woman, you kind of applaud, right? You're like, oh, yeah, you smart. You see a white man with an Asian woman, and you go, yeah, Asian women usually try to choose to be with white men, right? They try to go with the one that's perceived as the dominant one in society. It's only frowned upon when you see white and black. And I think that's because uh, they're on the opposite ends of the spectrum when we're talking about levels of melanin, right? So black people are eumelanin dominant and white people are pheomelanin dominant. And, I call white people melanin deficient and white people melanin abundant, right? And it's just the fact that we have different types of melanin in our body, and then the other races just happen to be a mixture of us, of black and white. If we go based upon science, and we go based upon goddamn, who is the oldest woman in the world that they always talk about? Lucy, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Lucy, right? And they discovered Lucy in Africa, and they say that the first original being was African, and all humans were originally African. For example, you can go look up this case they did in China, and the Chinese scientist wants to prove that Chinese people are in fact a separate race from everybody else in the world and have no relation to Africans. So he goes around taking sample sizes from people from, the cities to the rural to the Mongols in the mountains. And he comes back and finds out that every single last one of them, without exception, has African origin DNA. So
So everyone but Asians have African DNA.
no,
Oh,
every single Asian that they tested had African
oh okay,
DNA.
okay.
Every single white person is going to have some traces of African DNA. They'll also have traces of Neanderthal DNA. You have black people who will have traces of Neanderthal DNA as well from the admixture, from us mixing with whites.
Okay.
Because many believe that the Paleolithic white man was, in fact, the caveman, the cave Neanderthal. And then out of the caves of the Neanderthal, blacks mix. Now, I don't know what's truth and what's not. I really don't give a shit. But the races allegedly come from the African race. Now, you look at me, right? I'm not 100% African. In Africa, I'm light skinned. They would say, oh, he's light skinned, right? That's what they would say. In Africa, many places in Africa, they would say, I'm light skinned. Because in Africa, you got people who are black like my shirt. And that's that dark, 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 dark melanin. That's that original man melanin. So, basically where I'm trying to go with this is the only reason why people jump to white and black is because they're at the opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to original man.
Do you think that will ever change, especially with all this stuff
Yes.
that's going on right now? Okay.
Yeah. As soon as the aliens come down, or we're hit with a comet or some other natural disaster that resets this rock back to the Stone Age, and we have to
Okay.
start from fire and reinvent the wheel, then everybody will say, you know what, I don't care about your race because we have to worry about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And then the whole thing restarts and set back over. You see, the thing is, this isn't the first edition of human beings on this planet. We've been reset before. And that civilization, many believe, was called Atlantis. And the one before that, many believe, is Lemuria. I don't know if any of that stuff is true, but I do know that there is some evidence of an Atlantis in the Atlantic Ocean. And what people say is that they were a more advanced civilization. Uh, they say technology wise. I don't see any evidence of technology wise, but I do believe that if they did exist, they were more advanced um, emotionally.
Really?
They had higher emotional intelligence. They were not petty like the people we see today, right? Where everybody's arguing over red and blue and Democrat and Republican. These people were operating at a higher vibratory frequency than the humans we are now. We have lowered ourselves into this warlike state, whereas the people of Atlantis probably didn't have a need for money because they understood that to be communal would be easier and more beneficial for the advancement of technology. You see, what happens is when we look at and this last thing I'm going to say, when we look at ancient Egypt, which was the cradle of civilization, and the technology wholly starts there and branches out. Then you get Alexander the Great, who comes in from Greece and resets. Then you have Persia comes in and resets. And then people have to go backwards in Maslow's hierarchy needs. You look at the Mali Empire and the libraries of Timbuktu that were burnt down by Europeans who were more advanced than Europe. You know, at the time that Europe was going through dark ages, you had kingdoms in Africa. So what happens is when you go in and like let's say, you know, we had Silicon Valley, right? And all the technology
Hmm.
comes in Silicon Valley, right? And somebody drops a nuke on Silicon Valley. And Israel is a center of technology, right? And somebody drops a nuke on Israel. And China is another civilization advanced in technology. Russia, another civilization advanced in technology. And the aliens came down and they destroyed Israel. They destroyed Silicon Valley. They destroyed China and they destroyed Russia. It would take us years, I mean, centuries to come back and reinvent the iPhone.
Hmm.
Right? And that's what happened with the civilizations of Africa. Civil technology was stunted. It was wholly stunted while things were being taught and science was being advanced. You know, they went in and burnt and stole some of the books, but many of the libraries were burnt. So you destroyed knowledge. You know, it's like trying to come here and destroy, you know, Google, right? And everything we put on the internet ceased to exist.
Can you imagine that?
Imagine that, right?
It's absolutely crazy. Like I know that I hear what you're saying, and I'm actually very interested. I can actually listen to this type of stuff like for hours because it's very intriguing to me. I love history. I love just kind of it's more of me listening to people that know what they're talking about and like watching some of these documentaries because it's just so interesting how humans were, and then also different people are able to interpret things differently. But could you imagine Google not existing in our lifetime?
Right.
Everything we do is essentially powered by Google, our phones, the internet, technology, everything.
Imagine if aliens came down and wiped out the internet. What would that do for us? What would that do to us?
Me personally, I would miss the internet. I would miss trolling people on crypto Twitter, but I grew up without the internet when I was a kid. So I would
Right.
be okay. I would be okay. My daughter, she'd probably miss her tablet because she gets tablet time every day. She'd probably miss her tablet, but she would be fine. But the people that have been so heavily reliant on technology, I think mentally they would break down. I don't think they'd be able to deal with it mentally. We
Well,
have
the bigger problem is it would destroy our means of communication. And when you destroy means of communication to happen fast, you destroy our ability to advance technology faster.
That's true. But if you look back at society, like there's many people that survived and they were okay without all this technology and they just relied on their community.
Yes, but Technology makes life easier,
It does. But I
right?
also feel that humans are abusing technology. And me and my mother were having this conversation. We have knowledge at our fingertips. I can type in whatever I want to know on my
Right.
phone and I can pull it up. My mom was telling me because she grew up in Brooklyn. That was one of the places she lived. She said, I used to have to trek and I used to have to walk to the library if I wanted to find information. Now I think it was 5 blocks or whatever from her house. She said, I used to have to walk 5 blocks to the library if I had a question, because my mother was very inquisitive when she was young. Her father was you would have loved him. Big Nick, he was amazing. But my mother was very inquisitive. So she every time she had a question, she would have to walk to the library. She's like, now I have it on my phone. But we have all this power at our fingertips, but humans, we became lazy. We
Yeah.
won't pick books up. We and I even catch myself too. Like I'll be spending too much time on the internet, and that's something that I am going to be cutting down on a little bit, because it's just mindless stuff. It's not educational stuff. But we have all this information, and I feel like our kids are becoming they're becoming less intelligent. They're becoming more reliant on all of this on the social media. That's not providing any real benefit to them at all, and
Yeah.
they're
Well,
not.
you're speaking to um, a certain demographic, right? Now, there's other demographics where you hand them the internet and they do miraculous things,
That's true.
right? So it depends on, you can hand somebody a hammer and they'll build you a house. You can hand somebody a hammer and they're going to hit you over the head with it. You can't really blame the tool. You got to blame the guy who has access to that tool.
You're
The
right.
problem is
100%.
when you take technology away, you put people back into a place where um, they could face starvation. We could definitely face starvation if we send technology backwards. We go back to a time where if you didn't grow your own food, then you might not eat. And if you get hit with locusts or a bad batch, well, guess what? You might die of starvation. But technology allows us to communicate and say, hey, I'm having problems. Cops are whooping my ass. Help. And then technology is something that really helps us in many different ways. Let me get to the super chats here. Josh Randall, Jr. Thank you. He says for sure there's racial bigotry in law enforcement. However, their number one target for abuse is men in general. I 100% agree, and the stats prove that. LP $5 super chat. He said I'm gonna watch later, but I wanted to drop off something for the collection plate. Wendy, when we gonna see the chicken and beans on the podcast?
LP, LP. He commented on one of my things the other day, and I said, "Where you been?" And he goes, "I've been taking a break from social media. It's too much." I was like, "All right." I was like, "Bless up." Thank you,
Smart
LP.
man. Smart man. Emily Dauphine, $20 super chat. Thank you. She
Thank
says,
you.
learning so much from Hotep Jesus. Prop to Wendy as well. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
D Mazaja says, reference, license, child support, topic. This is a real issue. All must all should learn about law, tech, accountability, paper trail, etc. Parents pays child support, record, smart contract, RE, tech community, true crypto people, tight community. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Crypto. Shout out to crypto people.
Word. What's the next topic?
Next topic. This actually kind of segues into what you're talking about. About let's say that tech completely gets vanished. So my buddy Korean Geo, shout out to Korean Geo on crypto Twitter. He says he put a tweet out. He said picking a partner in today's society. And then he put a little like Oregon Trail emoji. Do you remember that game?
Yeah,
That game was fun. I
that
love
was
that game.
dopest. Yeah.
So he puts a little Oregon Trail emoji. So when I read that, I says, okay, well, we really need to pick like, okay. So prior to COVID, there'd be women out there, there'd be men out there. The men would have to have the nice shoes and nice cars, be dressed nice, not live at home with the parents, and there'd be the women with like the big fake boobs, the calf, all that type of stuff. So people would be picking other people for money and for really superficial type of stuff. But now with the social distancing, with the CV, with all of this crazy stuff that is going on in the world, because really we're at a transition point in the world globally, because we're seeing all this crazy stuff happen. So do we need to shift and start picking people who can actually cook, they can actually use their hands, they can sew, they can build things? Should people start to kind of look for those type of qualities in their partner as opposed to all this superficial stuff?
Should they look for what qualities?
Should they look for actual, like, I don't want to say actual qualities, but for example,
Yeah.
instead of picking a dude with like a nice car and he's got money, maybe you should look for a man that can use his hands, that can build. Or instead of picking a
Yeah.
female that is, like a makeup artist, for example, which I'm not disrespecting anyone that's a makeup artist. I'm just saying, instead of picking someone like that, would you maybe want to look for a woman that can do your laundry, that can cook, that can sew, that can clean, that's like more of a homemaker? Like, do you think that we're going to see a shift
Yeah.
with the picking of the partners?
Um, yes, I do, because when you shift culture and um, you shift what it means to be a woman and you shift what it means to be a man, those things will shift. In my book, Unbreakable Rules of Masculinity, available in the description box below, hit that link and get you a copy. It's only $15. I talk about how to pick a woman. And one of the things I say in there is, if you don't know who you are, you're not ready for a relationship, because you can't tell somebody, hey, this is what to look for in a woman, right? She has to cook, she has to clean. What if you're a cook, right? If you're a cook, why would you have your woman cook? If you're a cook, you probably cook better than her, right?
It's true.
Um, uh, I think you have to go based upon your personality type. I also think you have to go based upon your socio-economic wants and needs and your political wants and needs. If you don't understand where you are on the political spectrum, for example, a capitalist can't date a Marxist, and a conservative can't date a liberal. Not to say it doesn't happen or it won't happen, because obviously it happens all the time. But when you find people who are in alignment with both of those things, there's little conflict in how they raise their children,
Mhm.
right? There's little confusion. So the child doesn't have to pick and choose, hey, do I go with the Marxists or do I go with capitalism, or do they create a healthy mix of the two, right? But you wouldn't know, like, for example, if you asked me 10 years ago, am I liberal or conservative? I'd be like, I don't even know what that is, right? If you asked me, am I Democrat or Republican? I would have been like, well, I guess I'm Democrat because the Republicans are racist. A very uneducated opinion. But you fast forward now, and I know exactly where I align with all of those things. Um, did that answer your question? I don't think it did.
It kind of did, but I guess I want to talk to you about what do you think about being with somebody who has a different religion than you? Do you think that that's important?
Oh, yeah, another thing. The goddamn religion. Yeah.
Because that's important, because people have gone to war. Whole cultures, whole civilizations have been destroyed over somebody elected's definition of what God is, even though if you go through all of the religious texts, they're essentially the same. It is a higher power, a higher being.
So I'm going to say something controversial here. So everybody watching, especially if you're Christian, buckle your boots. Hold on. We're in for a bumpy ride.
Okay, let's do it.
The only Jesus allowed in my household is Hotep Jesus.
Okay.
I could never date a Jesus freak. I could never date a woman that would raise my child with the idea that in order to get to God, you have to go through Jesus. If a woman taught my child that to get to God, he had to go through Jesus, I would cuss her the hell out, because I find it to be wholly unscientific and wholly anti theological,
Okay.
also uneducated. People don't even understand the Bible. When people talk about 12 disciples, they don't know that you're talking about the 12 zodiac signs, right? They don't know that the sun is the sun. They don't understand that Biblios Helios is the Bible of the sun, that they're reading a book about astro theology. How do you have theology without the astro? You're not even making a connection with the stars. Also, when you're dealing with the Bible, you're dealing with, uh, 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 I hate to use the word plagiarized, but you're dealing with something that's borrowed from African culture.
Mm-hmm.
You're dealing with something that's borrowed from ancient Egypt. These ideas aren't new. The problem is, when we were telling these stories in Africa, we were telling stories about history. We were telling the numbers, were telling people, were relaying things about the stars. So this is a book about science, and the stories are just like how you would teach somebody PEMDAS. You know about PEMDAS, right?
I've heard of it before, but refresh me.
Please excuse my dear Aunt
Yeah.
Sally. It's how
Thank
you
you.
teach.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's how you teach somebody math, right?
Yes.
Now you could say that you do parentheses, so on and so forth, right?
Mhm.
Parentheses, exponents, and so on. But if I say, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, it makes it easier to remember, right?
Yeah, that's why if you say please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, then I do remember, but Pem does it takes me a minute.
Right. And our ancestors knew this. So when they wanted to teach science and astrology and lessons, they didn't separate them into different subjects like Western world does. They take everything and they separate them. No, what our ancestors did was they put them all in one story. And they told you a story so you can understand these things holistically. For example, I was talking with Thaddeus Russell, and I'm like, yo, how do you teach math? How do you teach math without science? That's one class. Math and science is one class.
100%, I agree with you.
Those aren't two separate classes. But the European way of doing things likes to compartmentalize and separate things. It's not how we did it in ancient Africa. For example, Ben Shapiro thinks that Jews have a monopoly over the six-sided star. The six-pointed star, right? But in fact, that's not exactly true. I can show you the esoteric meaning behind that symbol. And I don't want to take anything away from, the people of Israel and what that flag means to them, because I think they have every right to do that. But when we look at esoteric symbols for water, air, fire, right? And I'm going to pull it up right now. You're going to see the very same symbol right here. I'm going to put this up to the camera. You see that?
Yeah, I can see it. Yep.
So you got air, water, fire, and earth. Now, when you combine these things, you get that same exact star you see on the Israeli flag.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe the people that created this flag understood the science behind that six-pointed star in that symbol, and that's why they used it, right? I think that's a beautiful symbol, that six-pointed star. But I think the people, when they chose that, they knew that there was math embedded in there, that there was science embedded in that symbol. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how we taught. We didn't separate earth, water, air, and fire. We made one symbol and said all these things go together.
I agree with you on that. I feel one of the best classes that I took was actually in community college, and it really placed a lot of emphasis on the Muslim culture, um, like historic Muslim culture, and about the origins of geometry and all that type of stuff. And it really actually helped, even though it was about the arts. Essentially, it really helped me to understand math better because I understand where this stuff actually came from and the men that created this type of stuff, and then all the different cultures, because it talked about like historic Muslim stuff, but it also talked about the Italians, and it talked about people in Africa and all of these like ancient civilizations. But it brought light to all of this, and then it kind of, without getting too like religious, it kind of brought religion into it. And a lot of religion, I feel like, and I'm going to get shit for this too, but I feel like a lot of religion is manipulated by man to manipulate other men
Well,
to an extent.
the thing about that is, so this is where I'm going to go ahead and contradict myself. I think that Christianity is a beautiful thing to have. You ain't going to teach that shit to my children, but I think it's a beautiful thing to have. And I think that it's not inherently evil. And I don't think it's inherently meant to deceive people. I think I can deceive you with science, right?
With
I,
statistics, that's for damn sure.
right. I can do it with statistics, right? I can brainwash people and say, hey, look, everybody with a low IQ doesn't deserve to exist. And this is the argument that eugenicists make, right? To
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, you don't have a certain IQ, so it ain't going to work for you. But the IQ test is wholly based upon Western civilization. So if you weren't born in Western civilization and you haven't been introduced to some of these things, they think, oh, you're not smart enough, so you don't deserve to live, right? So I can use anything to brainwash people and to, turn them into the masses. So I think it's wholly unfair that people say, hey, you know, religion brainwashes people and control people. It can be used to that. It can also be used to free people too, So it depends on who's wielding that Bible. The Bible can either trap you or it can free you. Now, I teach my kids the Bible. I just don't teach my kids Christianity, and there's a difference in that.
No, I agree with you, and I'm not very religious because of the way I was brought up. Because there was always a fight between my parents, especially after they split. Dad was Jewish, mom was Catholic. After when they were married, everything was like we celebrated Christian holidays, and then we celebrated Jewish holidays. It was always important to do both. But after my parents split, it was kind of like a petty battle between the two, which I'm not faulting either of my parents for any of that because stuff happens, and I know they both did the best that they could. Um, I'm not super religious, but my husband's family is very, very religious. On his mother's side, like very, very religious. Like they're always wanting us to go to church and doing whatever, and that's fine. I don't go because I don't necessarily. If I was going to align with a religion, it wouldn't be. It would. It may be Catholic, but I wouldn't. Not the Christian church because I've got some issues with that. From when I was growing up. But since my daughter's daycare is closed, I was telling my husband, I go, we need to find another daycare to put her in because she needs to be around other kids. She misses it. She's asked, my daughter loves to role play and she likes to say, okay, well, I'm Ariel or I am, um,
Exploration of imagination.
whatever it is. And we do all that stuff. I think it's super, super important. And she loves Moana and she loves Elena, all these different princesses. But so I told my husband, I go, I think I want to put her in a Christian school because I feel like, even though I don't necessarily agree with all everything that's in the Bible, but I like that family is valued. I like that respect is taught. There's different aspects that I do like. And I feel like she might have a better start if she goes to maybe a more religious type of daycare than being put into just to a regular one. I think that there's some lessons to be learned, even though I don't necessarily agree with everything.
Yeah, some of the best schools in America are either Muslim, Jewish, or Christian. I would definitely want to send my child to a Christian school because, I mean, uh, you look at somebody like LeBron James. He went to, I think, St. Mary's or something like that, or all these great basketball players usually go to a Saint something, right? Because those schools are some of the best institutions, and they can recruit kids, and they are well funded. It's not like public state education, right? So yeah, I totally agree with that. Let me hop into some super chats really fast, and we'll come right back to this. D Mazaja. Nope. Victor Life. He said $8 super chat. Yatu Sabes. Preach. Thank you, Vic. Mazaja says, I have experience of this mixed thing doesn't work life. Belief principles and values must be aligned. Yo, I'm gonna need you to use your adverbs and shit so I can understand what you're saying. Thank you. Kristen, $2 super chat. Thank you. Special taxi. 9.99 super chat. Thank you. He says, speaking truth and changing lives. I support you and your message. Everyone needs to hear it. By the way, HOTEPS been told me enough to avoid the block genius, my friend. Appreciate you. Now, somebody asked me, Purple Pill Philosophy said, what is HOTEP Jesus? A Muslim, a deist, an agnostic? I'm HOTEP. That's my religion. My religion is HOTEP. And, I love the mosque. I love the church. And I love the temple. In fact, this may sound quite selfish, but I would love to sit inside of a church and just absorb some of the energy. There's a lot of spiritual and mystical energy in religious places, and I think there's a way you can measure it using scientific studies to measure vibrational frequencies off of people before and after they go into a church. But depending on who your pastor is, of course, because some of these pastors is crazy and they bring you down. But there's there's power in those religious buildings. And somebody invited me to church, I'd go. I really would go. I'd come with you to church and I'd dance and I'd praise Jesus. I would do it all with you. Matter of fact, I'm gonna tell you a quick story. I don't believe in the Jesus and all that thing, but When I was a performer, me and Demic, we did this show, Afram. We did Afram in Delaware, and Afram is African American cultural festival, and their this particular one was Christian. And the first thing I did, I got on stage, I said a prayer. I said, everybody bow your heads and said a prayer. I didn't do it. I wasn't like, trying to be selfish and say, I don't believe in this stuff, da, da, da. I'm like, no, these people came here. They came to have a good time. And I know how to put on a good prayer. I'm going to give them a good prayer. When I gave them that prayer, man, then people said, woo, the Holy Ghost hit me. You know what I mean? And as long as they were happy, I did my job according to God. You know what I mean? I don't have to agree with you to share those beautiful feelings that religion provides.
That actually reminds me of a pretty funny story with my father-in-law. So he's not religious at all in any way, shape, or form. But there was one particular Thanksgiving dinner that we were at, and he likes to drink, probably a lot more than he should. Gets in a lot of trouble for that. He likes to drink. So at the dinner table, he says he's trashed, and he tells us, "Y'all need to put your hands together, and we need to say a prayer." And he makes everybody get in prayer and say a prayer. And me and my husband kind of just looked at each other, dying, like hysterical laughing, because we're like, what in the is going on with your dad? My husband was like mortified. He was just, but it was like the funniest thing. And like, I was trying not to laugh during the prayer, but he was like dead serious. And then he started thanking God and Jesus for the mitochondria and for the grandma, because she's the one that's passing the mitochondria down and all that type of stuff.
The mitochondria DNA. Oh yeah, sensitive topic. Yeah.
Yep, he's a little chauvinistic at times, because that's his, his generation, and that's fine. I'm with it. But it's
Patriarch.
just, yeah,
Alpha.
it's uh, he wants things a certain way, but then he likes to go to the bar and be gone all day. So
Mm,
that's
mm.
why my husband's mom left him, is because she would be at home with the kids all day, and she just wanted him to come home, and she wanted to cook for him, whatever, but he wanted to go to the bar after and be with his buddies. So she, after a very long time, she's like, nope, and she left.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh man. Somebody in the chat asked me if I believe in a God, and the answer is yes or no. Um, I believe in what some would call the Most High, what some would call the cosmic, what some would call um, infinite. Is it infinite intelligence? What is Deepak Chopra call it?
Ooh, I know who he is, but I don't know what he calls it.
Cosmic consciousness. That's what he calls it. Cosmic consciousness. All right. So I believe in all of those things. I think we have to look at the origin of God. I think it originates from a German term, which is Goth or Goth. Goth, I believe it's pronounced. But I haven't studied that in years. But go look at the origins of God and see what you're invoking when you say that word, because it's not always good. But I use the term loosely. But yes, I believe in God.
It's interesting that you said it derived from the Germans, because a lot of their quote unquote fairy tales are actually very they're not how they are currently perceived. They're the origins of them.
Oh no. Oh no. Yeah, I think when you talk European history, people talk about Rome when they talk about Greece, but they don't talk about them Germanic tribes that are largely responsible for keeping the white race alive.
Yep, there's a lot of interesting things. This conversation actually reminds me of, there is I want to say he's more of like an outlaw country guy, but his name is Shooter Jennings. He's Waylon Jennings' son, and he's involved in crypto. He's supposed to come on my show eventually, but he has a podcast series. I want to say it's 8 or 9 episodes, but it's called Beyond the Black. And he wrote an album that coincides with the series, but it touches on a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, and a lot of the science and how things were manipulated and changed. And it's a good listen. It's a very, very good listen. He tells a lot of important stories, so if anyone's listening, you guys should check it out. It's really, really cool. But I think we have one or two more topics to touch on. So a girl on crypto Twitter, she had posted this tweet, and I had responded to it, and I said, this might be an interesting topic for us to touch on. But she said, women are easier to collectively manipulate through societal norms, IG selfies, and a standard that we are held to, and men are easier to individually manipulate.
I think she's correct. I think there's so when we talk about women, we're talking about people who make emotional decisions, and men make logical decisions. Which is why if you get a man alone, away from the pack, you can kind of work on him a little bit, work on his psyche.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Also, it works in packs too. You should really, look up Rollo Tomasi. I did an interview with him last week, and we spoke about this. And he's a psychology guy, and he's got a degree in it. So don't go based upon what I say, but I would listen to what he has to say about that. But what I know is that women are definitely targeted more by advertising and media,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously they spend more, they consume more media. Black women lead in media consumption of all types. So when you have somebody who leads in media consumption, and media consumption has advertising in it, you are going to get more advertising than the men. Guys we usually just turn the TV on for sports. We're more likely to play video games, right? Than women are. So we don't get hit with as much propaganda as women. And also, you got to understand that media and marketing and sales, period, wholly revolves around creating emotional reactions.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they'll tell you in sales, that's like lesson number one: create an emotional attachment, reaction, something. You have to evoke an emotion. If you can't evoke an emotion, you can't sell shit to anybody. So sales is about emotional manipulation. Marketing is about emotional manipulation. And who better to work on than an emotional human being?
That's true. And actually, that kind of reminds me. I used to work in a thrift store before I worked in healthcare, and it was always interesting because men's clothing would be donated a lot less than women's clothing. Every time the season changed or there was a new style that come out, we would get all the old styles from the women, but men would kind of hold on to their stuff. So that kind of coincides with what you're saying, because men just they don't give a fuck. They just have their stuff and they're happy with it. They have a couple things that they like and they're happy. But women, we're always trying to keep up with the latest fashion. We're always trying to look like X, Y, and Z, or we want to pull these different style tips from this person. So we end up donating a lot more of our stuff because we want to get all those new things.
Mm, mm. Absolutely. That's true. When I look at my bedroom, um, 90% of it is occupied by my woman. I think she gave me like two drawers out the dresser. And she
She
got
sounds like me.
I mean, I have closet space, but she borrows closet space. But women, tend to have more shoes and more clothes. So,
Hmm.
and then they're trained that, oh, it's a new season. So like, like there's this thing. I used to work for Nordstrom, so I remember like the seasonal color would change. Like the color of the season is gray. The, like, and next year for fall, the color is going to be an even lighter gray or a brown, right? All these things that are dictated by the fashion industry. So then they force women to go out and say, "Oh, we can't wear gray anymore. It's brown for fall now." And then these things
Hmm.
go in cycles and come back around. And that's why I'm like, yo, y'all stupid. And that's why Hotep Jesus wears the same hoodie every day. Because I refuse.
Well, it's pretty interesting because all the stuff from the 90s that was just so cringe to me, it's all coming back now. The high-waisted mom jeans and those
The
really
leggings.
the leggings and those stupid biker shorts, that the cotton ones that I God, that all that stuff's coming back. So
Hmm.
that's pretty interesting. No, but I actually agree with that. I think that like you said, if you get a man by himself individually, it's easier to manipulate him. When I use the term manipulate, I don't want people to take it in a negative way, but you see that when men get married or when they settle down after they're kind of separated from their group of men, they're packed. When they settle down with one woman, the woman starts to dictate and starts to say, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. You're not going to see your friends, or you're not going to do this, that, whatever. And the man just kind of goes along with it because, there's things involved that he doesn't want to give up, and he knows they're going to be withheld from him if he kind of breaks that. But women, even if you're in a group with your friends and a man comes up to you and tries to spit X, Y, and Z, even if she's with her group, she'll go pretty easy to manipulate women unless she's a strong woman, unless she knows what's going on. Me, for example, all my that's why I don't have a whole lot of female friends. In crypto, I do because the girls in crypto are a lot different than people I grew up with. But I always just did my own thing. I wasn't interested in kind of following or becoming, doing whatever they were doing because there's just too, it was just to me. But I would see them just kind of just go and just do all this dumb stuff. And I'm like, really? Really? Why?
Yeah. Yeah. You don't seem like you were that girly type like that.
No, I mean, I like to be feminine, but I also stick up for what I believe in. And there's many times where I lost friends because I would stand up and I would say, well, I don't agree with this. And I would have girlfriends that they would say, well, this happened, so you need to have my back and whatever. I'm like, I can't lie for you. Like, I'm not going to lie for you if your dude calls, or I'm not going to lie for you if, you're saying that somebody did this,
Wait,
but it
wait,
didn't really
wait,
happen.
wait. You're not gonna lie if her man call?
I'm just not going to take the call.
For real?
I don't want to take that call. I'm not trying to be in the middle of it. That's not my business.
Wow.
I don't want to be in somebody else's business. Like if you have issues with your whatever you're dealing with, don't give them my number. I don't want to get involved with it because what ends up happening is when a man is friends with a woman, and I do have male friends, and I've had male friends for a long time, but when a man is really close with a woman, what ends up happening when they get too close and they're friends, then this actually happened to me one time. I had a friend. This was I want to say we were in high school. She was grounded because she was a dumbass. She did something stupid. She got grounded. So me and we all hung around the same group of people. We all went to a club one night, and she couldn't go because she was grounded, and her boyfriend ended up going because his friends were going. So she, at the end of the night, I guess she called and flipped out and was screaming at me because I was there, but she didn't scream at any of the other people that were there. And her mom was calling me, screaming at me too, like it was my fault. And I didn't invite him. I was just there. And from that day forward, I was like, I'm not getting involved with. So if somebody is dating somebody, not interested.
I can't blame you. I cannot blame you. I think more women need to take that approach.
So I'm not trying to get him in the middle of anybody's stuff. If I'm friends with a guy and he has a problem with his chick, they need to speak about it. Don't call me. Don't ask me questions. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
If you want me to mediate, I will mediate with both parties there. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want no whatever, because girls, they get what happens with women is that they will blame the female before they blame the male, when most of the time it's a man that's running around putting stuff in the female's head, trying to play the two women against each other so he can escape. So he doesn't have to deal with the bitching. That's what happens. And it's very
Mm,
common that happens. Very,
mm,
very, very common. I
mm.
don't want.
Real talk.
I actually had a situation that happened. I was friends with somebody, and he didn't tell me that he was dating this girl. So this girl thought that I was into him, that was not the case. So she came for me, but didn't want to acknowledge that he was running around with all these other women, and she thought he was running around with me. And I said, nope. Mm-mm. So
You.
it,
Shout out to Sketch Therapy, holding us down as the moderator. Shout out to Vic holding us down, moderating the day. He said he can respect that. Yeah, I can respect that too. Special Taxi 999 Super Chat. He says, speaking truth and changing lives, I support you and your message. Everyone needs to hear it. By the way, Holt has been told me enough to avoid the block genius, my friend. Did I read that already?
yes.
Special Taxi said, Thaddeus Russell interview blew my mind. One of the most informative discourse I've seen in a long time. Shared that with all my close ones. Big love to you and Uncle Hotep. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, that was an amazing interview. Probably, definitely top two interviews of Hotep Jesus. Special Taxi again. He said, aside from music, the 90s was mostly trash. I was there. Um, I loved the 90s though. What was trash about the 90s?
I was really young in the 90s. I was an 80s baby. So I was like really, when you're weird, like a weird, awkward teenager, like junior high-ish, that's where I was. So my life was just not.
How old were you in 1996 or 1990?
1996, I was like 10.
You were 10.
Yeah.
I was grabbing on booty in 1996. I had me a couple of girlfriends in 1996. Matter of fact, in 1996 was the year that changed me in relationships.
Okay.
Um, I was dating this girl. Her name was Shakia, and I was in love with her for years before we actually became an item. And she didn't start dating me until I got my growth spurt. I walked up on her and she looked up and she saw my face and she jumped because she wasn't used to me being tall. But I had hit that growth spurt my junior year of high school. And we were together. She was doing like real like shady stuff. She was like, flirting with other guys. And, at the time I didn't know how to take it. So we went away on vacation and we went to Jamaica and I had the best time of my life. My parents got me an adult wristband, so I was able to get alcohol, and I was getting alcohol for other kids, and I was getting like other 14-year-olds and 15-year-olds drunk in Jamaica at this resort. And basically, what happened was like all the kids like kind of huddled up, and then the parents like did their thing. So I was the ringleader. I was like the ringleader of the kids, right? And mostly because I'm just an entertainer. I was just funny, right? And I never forget, man. I was there on the island. My girlfriend was this British chick, and she was mixed. I think her father was white and her mother was black. Beautiful young girl. I was so in love with her. So obviously I was cheating on my girl, right? And then this one white girl who was like highly developed, she said she wanted to walk me back to my hotel room. And again, I was wet behind the ears. This is young Hotep Jesus. I didn't know what was going on. And she said she wanted to walk me to my hotel room. I didn't think anything of it. And I was trying to hook her up with my boy Graham. And Graham was like this shy young boy from Canada. Attractive young boy, had blonde hair, was real cool. So I thought, they made a good match. They were white, white people go together. And then while we're walking to my hotel room, she threw me up against the wall and started making out with me. So not only am I cheating on my girl at home, I'm cheating on my girl on the island because I kissed her back. And this was the introduction to me becoming a player. I'm like, damn, you could have more than one girl at once. So because my girl was acting funny already back at home and all this stuff, and I was kind of like being a little simp, I came back a man, right? Like I came back from Jamaica a man, like, yeah, like I got all these hoes, right? So I get
How
back
old were you? How old were you?
16. I was
Okay. Oh,
16.
that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So I get back and my girlfriend sees me and she goes, "Oh my God, you're so black," and runs away from me. Because I was in Jamaica, I got really dark. I spent a lot of time in the sun. And there's this like thing in the black community, like, don't get too dark. Don't stay in the sun too long. Don't get too black. Yeah. So
Really?
yeah. So she pulled that thing on me. And like, I want to say like maybe, the next time I saw her in the hallway, because, like you have your scheduled times, you meet your girlfriend in the hallway.
Mhm.
So next time I saw her, she apologized. It was whatever, whatever. But then one day, Tasha's a lesbian now, by the way. Tasha, knows I'm dating this girl in her class, and she pulls me aside and she makes out with me. The moral of the story is women create bad men. It's women's fault that men turn into players, and they wholly ruined me. I never recovered from being a simp and turning into a player because I was so hurt at the age of 16.
I'm not going to share any of my romantic stuff when I was that age because it was just terrible. After my dad died, I let men treat me like garbage because I didn't know any better. I didn't figure out the power that I had until I was much later, until really till I met my husband because he was always a good man. But prior
Mm,
to that, I didn't know. I just was like, you got to do this, and there's. I didn't know any better because I didn't have a positive male role model. My mother she was there for us. She was a good mom, but there was some things that she just didn't do. So I'm not going to talk about that part. Well, maybe one day, but it's not very nice stuff that happened. So
mm.
we got one more thing to discuss.
Let's knock it out.
I'm not gonna. Don't worry, I won't audio clip that story. Okay, so there's we did you do MFK?
Nah, I didn't.
All right, well I'm gonna we'll do it next week. We'll do it next week.
All right.
Do it next week and get me some good ones. Get me some real good ones.
All right.
So the last one is there's an article that came out and it essentially was how to spy on your wife. So this tech article tells you exactly how to figure out what your wife is doing, to plug into her phone, to know what was going on. I think this is dangerous. I don't think this is appropriate. I think what this is doing, if you have all this if a media outlet is telling, and I'm not about censorship, but if a media outlet is targeting women and telling males how to not necessarily stalk them, but how to find out if they're cheating, and teaching people all these different tech ways to put like locator devices on their phone to get their text messages, all that type of stuff. I feel like that's dangerous. I don't feel like that's healthy. I feel like if you think your woman is not being faithful, you need to talk to her. I feel like you don't need to be stalking her or going through her stuff unless she lets you go through the phone. I don't know. I think that's very scary, especially with the day and with the way society is, because there's a lot of mentally unstable people out there. And I feel like it was irresponsible for this tech company to release this article. And I think that it's just a dangerous and very bad all around.
Yeah, I would call that tiny phallus energy. Uh, if you have to track your wife, your relationship's already over. You might as well go get you a new bitch now. Tell your wife it's over. I'm leaving. Goodbye, ho. It's over. Your relationship is technically already over. Um, Another thing I want to say is, um, I think that if your wife is cheating on you, a man should celebrate. It's a holiday, it's a very good thing when you find out your wife's cheating on you, your girl's cheating on you. So very matter of fact, I had this kid on Instagram. He hit me up. He said he was suicidal, and I said, "Why are you suicidal, bro?" And he said he wanted to talk to me and shit like that. And I told him, I'm like, "Nah, I'm not gonna call you. I don't, you don't want to talk. I'm not the right guy to talk to. I'll curse you out for being suicidal. I'm not the right party for this." But I said, "Why are you suicidal?" And he said, "Oh, my girl cheated on me." I said, "Oh, you should be celebrating because when people show you their character." God's letting you know they don't belong in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And
She belonged to the streets.
yeah. And it allows you to make room for somebody who's better for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So that's why I say you should celebrate because that means something better is about to come into your life. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if you got to go and start, searching and tracking and all of that,
That's scary. That's scary.
well, it also means you ain't got shit else better to do. Right? Like my girl could be cheating on me right now, right? Right now, this instant. I wouldn't know, right? I wouldn't take time because I'm too busy podcasting, I'm too busy writing books, and I'm just too busy to be thinking about some dumb shit like is my girl cheating or not? Like I wouldn't allow these. Now, obviously, we've all had these thoughts, right? We've all been in relationships before in the past where we're like, "Oh, is this person faithful to me?" Da, 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 da. If you're having these thoughts, they are already cheating. They are cheating. That's what's happening. Or you're insecure. It's something you're not doing. A lot of times people think their partner is cheating because they cheating.
Ooh, turn
And
it
that's what
around.
I mean, it's the truth. If you a lot of the times, I want to say more than 60 to 70% of the time, I'm pulling these numbers out my ass, obviously, but I want to say more than half of the time when people think their partner is cheating, it's because they themselves are cheating. So they're creating an insecurity in themselves, basically saying, well, if I'm getting away with it, are they doing it too? Because that means you're absent from the relationship in those moments that you're cheating. If you're not absent from the relationship, then your partner wouldn't have time to cheat.
Interesting. That is kind of true, I think. But I don't know. This article just made me mad because one of the things I'm very passionate about is like violence against women and, obviously, different stuff that stems from that can happen, like stalkers and, sexual abuse and stuff. That's something I'm very, very passionate
Right.
about. I feel strongly about. And I've got, my own thoughts and opinions on it. And I get called on crypto Twitter. They say I'm sexist and all types of stuff, but, it is a problem in our space. And there's lots of stuff that happens, but I wanted to talk about that. It was important to me because I just feel that it was very inappropriate for that company that has a big platform to post something like that. That's essentially like enabling people to take advantage or possibly.
I don't agree. And
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you why. Child support and divorce court, especially divorce court, right?
Hmm.
You want to divorce your wife because you think she's cheating, you might not be able to get out of that contract,
That I agree with you. That I
right?
agree with you.
But if you put that tracker on her phone and you can prove infidelity through some means. Now, if you want to track your woman because you need to take something to your attorney, I support you 100%. But if it's not for the purpose of making sure you ain't got to pay alimony, it's pretty much a waste of time. Just go ahead, file the divorce papers, and let that hoe go.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I just my mind goes to some of the extreme cases just because I've known people that have dealt with some of those extreme cases and it's been an absolute nightmare for them and my heart goes out to them. So that's why I kind of sometimes I don't think logically because sometimes I see something like that and I just like,
I'm a Libra, so we're the balance scale.
mhm.
So I'm gonna say something and then I'm gonna contradict myself at the same time because I see the whole thing. I see all sides of things. So I'm gonna be like, "Yo, tracking your wife is stupid," but
Well, there's like what you said, and the whole child support thing and the whole alimony thing, because the courts 90% of the time favor the women, which I understand why they do. I'm not saying I agree with it. And the women are able to take advantage of men in court. 100%. So what me and my husband did before we got married, and this is when we were still broke, I actually went and I saw an attorney. I talked about getting a prenup and all that stuff. He's like, you don't have enough money to get a prenup. But it was one of my clients that said, it was one of my, because we wanted to buy a house together and houses are expensive in California. You can't get a house. We got lucky with our house, but you can't buy a house for under $500,000 in California. That's a lot of money. And most people I know, we were able to buy the house before I turned 30 and I didn't know I didn't know anybody that was able to buy a house before the age of 30 in California because it's just so expensive to live. So the way we have everything set up, everything is separate and that works for us because God forbid something happens, we're cool, we're straight because I didn't want to have to I didn't want to have to go through the system too much because I know how it would work out and I'm not that type of person that would take from him because he's done enough for me as it is that we're married and it's not if I want to leave or if he wants to leave it's my responsibility to take care of myself. I'm a grown ass woman.
mm,
But
mm.
I just worry about the women that are put in these abusive situations and dealing with these people that are meant because most of it is that the partner is mentally ill and that scares me. And then another thing that kind of triggered me when I read this, I'm like, what happens if it's not even a person's spouse or a partner? It's just some crazy random nerdy stalker dude that finds this girl online that has feelings for her and then ends up being weird and hacking her or whatever it is and hurts her. That's where my mind goes to those extreme cases.
Real talk, real talk. Aztec Mecca, $5 super chat. He said, shout out to Hotep. That Rolo interview was great. Got through his first book. Didn't know how much of a rational male I was. Thought I was a real jerk. Yeah, great work. Love Rolo. If y'all haven't checked out that interview, go ahead and get that. Watch that. Dia Z says, love the content. Just join the Patreon. Wow. Thank you. Appreciate you. See you in the Hotep Nation chat where it goes down. And Mazaja, again, thank you. She said, Hotep Jesus nailed it. Insecurity or waste of time. With insecurity, it's low self esteem with likely abuse traits, which makes tracing tech dangerous for domestic violence. Thanks, Hotep and Wendy.
Mm-hmm. See, it's good to have two sides.
Absolutely. That's why this show exists. That's why I love technology because how would we be able to help people with their relationships if me and you couldn't interface live and stream to the YouTubes,
To the YouTubers.
to the YouTubers. Yeah. I mean, this wasn't possible years ago,
Right. That's great. It's technology is a great thing. I'm very thankful for it. But I also there's some things that do scare me about it just
Mm.
because things are advancing so fast and there's lots of uncertainty and I'm a type of person where I need routine and I need to be certain about things and I need to know what is going on. And I
You
feel
can
like I feel like I don't know that. I feel like that's probably why I'm a little bit anxious lately, is because I got a lot of uncertain things in my life right now that I'm just kind of like business stuff, because I need to figure out what I'm going to do, because I like what I'm doing, but I want to switch it up a bit. So that's why I'm going to start this business, and then I've got some other things I'm going to do. So that's for next time.
Yeah, our steps for next time.
All right. So we doing this next week?
Next week we'll be back, same time, same place.
You guys, before we go, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, set alerts for Hotep, support him, follow him on Twitter. If you want to follow me on Twitter and hear about a bunch of nerdy stuff, that's fine too. I've got a YouTube channel talking about all different types of crypto stuff. Also, if you guys have any topics you want us to touch on next week, please feel free to drop me a line or drop him a line, and we'll get to all that stuff.
Tomorrow I'm talking to the so-called warlord of the Chaz, or now called the CHOP, the used to be autonomous zone in Seattle. I'll be talking to Raz Simone tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern time.
Are you really?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna watch. Ooh, I gotta watch that. I'm very interested to see what is going on with that, because
Yeah, I got my questions done already. I've been had them. So yeah, it's gonna be a real juicy conversation. We're gonna see what this guy's about. I'm optimistic. I like the idea of the autonomous zone or whatever's happening out there. I just love to see people exercise their right as free human beings, free
right.
sovereign beings. And whenever I see people exercising that to its extreme, I celebrate them. I celebrate that.
I do too, but it's also some of the stuff that's coming out of it, like some of the video clips are just comedic gold.
Oh yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's like I look at it like Trump, right? Like you can cover Trump and just report on every time he makes a mistake, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can paint him as something else. For example, what if you just clipped out every stupid thing we said on every episode, right? People would be like, "Yo, this podcast is trash." Or you could clip just like some of those serious moments and clip them all together, and people would be like, "This is a serious podcast." But until you sat down and watched all the podcasts and see how we go from serious to silly, you don't really understand, the whole picture. And I think that's the problem with what's happened down in Chaz. It's being unfairly covered and nobody's looking at all of it, the good and the bad. So I'm gonna uncover it. I'm gonna talk to Raz Simone. I'm gonna ask him some great questions and we're gonna see what's good. Hotep, Chad.
All right. Well, I'm going to be tuning in. I'm going to retweet the heck out of that, because I know that the crypto people are very interested into what is going on. One thing before we get going, I may have said it last week. I don't remember, but the crypto community, they're really watching their mouths throughout this whole thing. There's a lot of verbiage that was used before, and they're not using the specific verbiage anymore. So I'm going to say that I'm proud of them. I guess I don't know how else to what else to say.
Yeah.
But sometimes it takes catastrophe for people to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I don't like Black Lives Matter, but I see a lot of good coming out of it. I see bad too, but I see a lot of good coming out of it.
No, we talked about this before, but one of the things I do see is there's a lot of things that are starting to change, in particular for the Black community. And there's also, I'm seeing a lot of people starting to protest what's going on with ICE, how they're caging children up, some of those things. And I think that that's a good thing. The way I grew up just with everybody was like one person. I didn't really know the difference between, like, obviously you can tell if somebody looks different than someone else, but race wasn't really a thing. But now it's such a big thing. So I'm hoping after all of this is kind of subsiding, I'm hoping that people are just going to be judged for being people, which I know racism will never go away. But if we can start to take baby steps and mini victories, I'm with it.
Real talk.
So, all right, you guys, thank you so much. Catch you next week.
See you.
Bye-bye.